Well, hello YouTube, and welcome to my 1 year review of the CFMoto 450MT. I'm not currently on it. I'm on an Aprilia scooter, which is a loaner bike from the dealer. I'm just going to pick up the 450 from the dealer now, but it's just had the big 5,000 kilometre service. Miserable day for doing this, but that's what you get in the middle of winter in Christchurch. Find an indicator, there we go. The scooter's actually pretty sweet. Gets up and goes alright. And here we are at CMG, who's the Christchurch dealer for CFMoto. We'll put this little baby away. Bike acquired.
And you join me as I ride to the very first place I took this bike after picking it up in May of 2024. Hawesville Quarry, which as its name suggests, it used to be a quarry in Christchurch, New Zealand, where I am, but has since been converted to a recreational area. Once we get there, I'll give you a rundown of my bike. But while we're riding there, I think a quick background on me would help add context. I've only been riding seriously for about 2.5 years, and about half of that was on the CRF250L, which you may have seen in other videos. I've sampled a few other bikes over this time, but nothing that really directly competes with the 450MT. The closest would be a pre-25 KTM 390, which I briefly considered before pulling the trigger on this, but my initial ride of it was that the ergonomics were just all wrong for me. It felt very road bike, and by comparison the 450MT felt very natural, both seated and standing. As for what kind of riding I do, here in Canterbury we're very lucky to have a mix of everything. We have fast flowing gravel, rocky riverbeds, muddy riverbeds, sandy beaches, deep gravel, shingle beaches, plenty of forest single track, and a lot of really scenic backcountry four-wheel drive tracks. So I think that puts me in a pretty good position to give a well-rounded review of this. To answer some simple questions straight up, is it the unicorn? No. It would need to lose 20 to 30 kg to achieve that, but this bike at a DR650 weight, maybe. Does it live up to the hype? In my opinion it does. It's everything I hoped it would be, and it's a hell of a lot of bike for the money, and I absolutely love what it's done to the industry. Other manufacturers are looking like they're taking this class seriously now, and that's a win for everyone. And I guess the last high level question that I'm hoping to answer is it a good option for those on lighter dual sports or new riders? Bit subjective, but in my case, yes. The 450 is near enough to 50 kg heavier than what I'm used to on the CRF, and while it does add some limitations to where I can take it, the overall balance and the way it carries its weight really fill me with confidence. It's very easy to manoeuvre at low speed and high speed. It's very predictable and doesn't have the power of the bigger bikes, but it's more than enough for everything I do, and a huge step up from the CRF. Enough power to have fun, but it's very forgiving. I guess my point is that my review of this bike is going to be somewhat influenced by my transition from a smaller, lighter dual sport to a smallish adventure bike.
Well, I did not expect this much mud, but here we are. I really have picked the worst day for this. Look at that. So what I've done to the bike since I got it, front to back, the high guard, more of an aesthetics thing for me than anything else. OEM crash bars, they're a must. They've saved it plenty of times now from dropping. High seat, that's a pretty recent addition. I did find on the stock seat or the low seat that after a day of 300 plus Ks, I would find my knees sort of giving out on me a wee bit. And so far that has been a dramatic improvement. I do have these AliExpress Barkbuster knockoffs on it. The bars themselves are pretty solid, but the plastics are very brittle. As you can see, I've had to stitch that one back together. It was a pretty hard drop, but I know I've got the legit Barkbusters on the CRF and they've taken a lot worse. Going down, Anakee Wilds, the 90-90-21 on the front and a 140-80-18 on the back. They've been a bit of a game changer. The stock tyres are pretty good on tarmac and packed gravel, that kind of thing, but in anything wet, this sort of terrain in particular, just this sloshy grass, they're absolutely horrendous. These are just night and day difference. One of the first things I did actually was put the Uncle Wang, I believe it's the Type C bash plate on it. It's got the cutout in the front which lets you pull out the oil filter without taking the whole plate off, which is pretty sweet. That's been solid. taken some pretty decent hits and is again night and day compared to the stock one. The stock one is basically tinfoil. I trashed that on my first time off-road. One little one I forgot was the chain guide. Factory doesn't come with anything, and for the type of stuff that we ride in, it's sort of a must. And just a cheap tail tidy on the back. Now I know it's only 1 year old, but in terms of reliability and durability, can't fault it. Like, everything looks new apart from things that I've damaged, and even then, like, I did drop it once before I had the crash bar on, which slightly scuffed it. Other than that, yeah, everything's held together and it still looks new.
The 14 or so months that I've owned this bike has transformed my riding. I'm no longer hesitant to take on those longer highway stints to reach new places, and once I'm there, I'm not nervous about exploring them. It's an absolute pleasure on fast flowing gravel, it's stable, there's minimal vibration thanks to the twin engine, and overall it's just really comfortable to clock up the kilometres. On rough terrain, the stock suspension does a great job. Light years ahead of my old stock CRF suspension. It carries the weight in a predictable way and actually rewards you for tackling things a little bit quicker. I haven't really played with the settings yet, but with my 100 kg plus gear, the factory setup feels almost spot on. Some people say it's a little bit harsh, and I think if you're a lighter rider it probably would be, but at my weight I can't imagine a better spring rate. On more technical trails I find it very smooth and manageable. I can ride this bike pretty much anywhere I take my CRF, and it's really down to my skill, not the bike's limits. I feel like it'll be a long time before I outgrow it. Out on the trail I have more confidence to have a go at things. If I drop it, I know it won't explode into a million pieces, and if I'm on my own, I know I can still pick it up. Sometimes I do wish it was a little bit lighter. Gravity's not your mate going downhill, but overall I trust it and I'll take it anywhere. When I first picked up this bike I was a little bit concerned about the availability of spare parts. The surge in demand definitely caught CFMoto off guard globally, but at least here in New Zealand they appear to have caught up. Plus there's now a number of third-party sellers offering OEM parts, like good old Uncle Wang, so that's eased a lot of pressure on CFMoto's distribution. Additionally, because these bikes are made in China, they're easily accessible to the Chinese aftermarket, and in my experience that's translated into good cheap parts that fit well. And knowing that parts availability is increasing just gives me one less thing to think about if I'm attempting something dumb. With all that being said, I have had a couple of minor issues on the trail. One of them was the throttle jam issue, which I covered in a video here. Basically I had some stones get caught in the throttle return, which meant that the throttle couldn't close. I think it's just more bad luck than anything, but it does still sit in the back of my mind. And the other one is fairly minor, but just some bolts coming loose. It seems like CFMoto either go minimal torque or all of the torque in their factory. In my case, the main one was the bolt that the brake lever pivots on. It came loose, so the brake lever was just wobbling all over the show. Very easy fix, but not a fun time.
Now, a lot of people talk about throttle statch, which is definitely a real issue. I adjusted the throttle as soon as I got it. I've done the latest update, and that definitely helped. But the biggest thing for me was doing the clutch mod, and all that involves is just shorting the clutch switch. So normally you pull the clutch, it sends a signal to the ECU to tell it that the clutch is pulled in, and then it uses a different part of the mapping. By shorting it, you're just avoiding that part of the mapping, and it gets rid of a lot of that low throttle. It does make a performance hit on the dyno, but honestly my butt can't feel it. The traction control resetting after a key reset is frustrating. Other manufacturers are not doing that, so I don't see why CFMoto can't. So hopefully that comes in an update at some point. The next one would be the Moto Play infotainment integration thing. To be honest, I don't use it, it's rubbish. It's okay if you're just going around town, but if you're trying to do any sort of navigating with it, it's just too frustrating. You're still on your phone, so you might as well just have your phone mounted up there. And it's definitely not a replacement for a GPS unit. And the final frustration is another infotainment thing where the Bluetooth audio quality is garbage. I don't know if it can be fixed with firmware updates, but yeah, for me it's unusable. So I'm just running the Cardo straight to my phone, and then I'm just using a AliExpress Bluetooth controller to control the rest. In terms of value for money, I paid just under 11,000 New Zealand dollars for this, which is, I don't know, about 60 cents US dollars. And I've probably put another 2,000 into it with the upgrades. The second-hand market here in New Zealand, they are selling for around 9,000 with similar Ks to what this has got on it, which I think exceeds expectations in terms of resale value for a new to market Chinese bike. So I'm pretty happy with that, but it was always going to be a long-term thing for me anyway.
If you're a new rider or looking to move on from a dual sport like a CRF250 or even a 300, I think this is a really good option. Its low seat height and low centre of gravity make it super approachable even for shorter riders, and the power to weight ratio means you're not going to be whiskey throttling yourself off the side of a cliff. As I said earlier, I can't really speak for its competitors, but I genuinely don't think you can go wrong with this. At the very least, I wouldn't be buying a new bike in this class without taking this for a test ride. Well, if you made it this far, I hope this video was helpful. It's been a hell of a lot of work talking to a camera, a lot of takes, and I'm battling some pretty basic audio gear, and really struggling to get a tone that works. It's definitely harder than it looks. But yeah, if you own one of these, I'd love to hear how your experience compares with mine. And if you're researching one, more than happy to answer any questions in the comments. I think a lot of people looking at these bikes are coming from a similar background to me, whether that's being a relatively new rider or coming from a smaller bike. Yeah, so more than happy to answer questions. And that'll about do it. If you like what I'm doing, feel free to give us a like and a sub. Appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
You just watch Michelin Anakee Wild. Click these things.